Southern Arizona is waking up to local talk that matters. Wake Up Tucson, mornings with Chris and Joe on AM 1030 KVOI, The Voice.
790-2040 is the phone number. 2 days to go into Mexico. 40 folks heading down to Mexico. Joe Higgins in his T-bar and his Rolling Stones hat.
I just got everything waxed up last week, and I am ready for the beach.
That's what our next guest, Rob Samuelson, wanted to hear. Joe Higgins being waxed up for Mexico. Morning, Rob. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Fine, thanks. How are you guys?
Not too bad. So, like the Rebel Alliance out on the east side of town, the good people of Vail are pushing towards trying to become their own incorporated town.
Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent. Well, we've chronicled the role of another municipality and how it changes things, and it's such an important thing that there's more incorporated areas, and we're real excited about what you guys are trying to do out there. And where is it at in the stages of actually being incorporated? What's next?
Well, right now the early ballots have gone out. They've been delivered to the people there. We have about more than half of the voters get early ballots. So we think the vote is actually being decided literally this week.
Okay.
And, of course, the other half will have to go to the ballot on November 5th. And, on November 5th at 8 o'clock in the evening, we'll know the answer.
So you're obviously a pro-incorporate Vail guy. What are the reasons if someone says, why are we doing this? Why should we? If you're a Vail voter, why should we do this?
Ultimately, everybody wants to bring up taxes. They want to bring up all these things. But ultimately, it comes down to determining your own destiny. And do you want to be determined by, a county government 25 miles away where they don't have any representation that lives out there? Or do you want to be determined by your destiny by your neighbors and by the people who live there and who really care? So ultimately, it comes down to control.
And you look backwards at Marana back in the late 70s when they incorporated, or Sarita, or Valley. What a difference that makes. So it starts out this way, and then it kind of grows over time and creates its own culture. What does Vail want to be? What do the residents want to be? The closer those votes are happening down to the neighborhoods, the better. Because you can determine all these things.
In fact, that's how we got started. We started with a subcommittee from the Vail Community Action Board looking at what was important to us, creating values and missions, a mission statement for us. And once we concluded that, we were sitting around thinking, okay, now that we know what our values are and our mission is, how do we protect that? So then we created a second subcommittee that looked at 5 different forms of governance. How can we maintain those own values and that mission statement there? So we came up with 5 alternatives. One was to incorporate. One was to be annexed into the city of Tucson, or Benson, or Saurita, which would be our 3 neighboring communities.
I would choose Sarita.
Me too.
Sorry.
They have better roads.
They have better roads. Well, and the third option was to create an improvement district. Those are funded by property taxes. And there's an example of Incline Village in Nevada that has
big
done
in California because
very
of Prop
successful.
13, yeah.
Right. The fourth was to create a model similar to what Green Valley has done, which we call the Green Valley model. And the fifth was
What is the Green Valley model again?
The Green Valley model?
Pay taxes and
you get a whole bunch of
early bird specials.
Retired people who have a lot of time on their hand, and they go and influence the county government.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
You are so getting a manila envelope from Chuck. Anyway.
Thank you. And the fifth is what we're really expert at, and that is to do nothing. And that's what we've been doing for 120 years.
Sure.
And so we looked at those 5 different things. We brought in experts. We brought in people from the city, from from
state and
from all the different things. Yeah,
of course. So the way the state is set up is it's called state shared revenue.
That's
correct. And a
correct.
piece of money comes back to the cities and municipalities that are incorporated, and it's based on their population. Correct? Is that how that works?
That is correct.
And then there's a formula where sales tax. So if you have car dealers and retailers and all those kind of things, collect sales tax within your region, that goes to the state and comes back. So one of the knocks we've had is the fact that we're so unincorporated, we're losing a lot of that state shared revenue money up to the great state of Maricopa.
Well, we call that the big sucking sound.
Yeah.
It just all goes right up north,
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a look at the city of Tucson City Council, in order for Vail to incorporate, it required them to waive the 6-mile rule.
Yep.
And the city council courageously voted unanimously to support us because they understand that the rising tide raises all ships.
Sure.
And this has been a big Rothschild thing for him to
and Mayor Walkup before that also supported that. So
one had a backbone and one didn't, but keep going.
Anyway, so we had these 5 alternatives.
Rothschild has the backbone. Thank you. Sorry.
So we had these 5 alternatives. We had a town hall meeting. We did a straw poll, and it came out 57% in favor of incorporation, 18% to do nothing, 17% to do improvement district, 6% to follow the Green Valley model, and 2% to be annexed into the city of Tucson.
Whoa.
Those are the results.
Yeah.
So from that, we said, okay, let's go look at incorporation a little deeper. So we spent another year, so now this is our third year, looking at feasible to incorporate. And we took a very conservative stance. We did not include impact fees or sales tax or regional funds or block grants or any other type of monies. We only looked at state shared revenues.
Wow.
So that's a very conservative stance. And it came out that it is feasible. You know, it's like an early matrimony budget.
And then who handles police? Do you contract with the sheriff's department to do that?
Well, we have to. A new town has to do three things. It has to provide police, it has to provide roads, and it has to provide administration, clerk, and those types of things. And so those are the three expense lines that we compared. And based on that, we would have more money than we get today from the county for those types of services. Because right now the infrastructure in Vail is newer, so those tax dollars that we pay end up getting used other places in the county.
And typically a developer will go in and then they'll pay the infrastructure and hand it over to the municipality.
That's correct.
After they get it built. So
a couple of questions that have come up when we talked about one off there about is the fear of extra taxation upon people in Vail. What's your answer to that, to someone who comes up to you and says, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, we're going to pay more taxes? What do you tell them?
Well, that's the ultimate political strategy, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so that's what our opposition is saying, is you have to raise taxes. First of all, the last 15 incorporations in Arizona did not include a primary property tax. So there's now decades of history of other communities that have been successful without raising a primary property tax.
They've had to go to other little ticky-tack taxes in the future, and they're later, and like utility taxes and all that other jazz. But you're right, there is no.
Right. What we really want is a lot of people to come into Vail going extra fast so we can assess huge speeding tickets on them. We think that'll be really effective.
That works
for us.
in other municipalities. So
Chris is from Oro Valley, so he gets that one.
Absolutely. The other thing is, what does the initial government look like? Let's say it gets you get approved. Now, I know one of the fears that I've heard from people is that the initial council is appointed by the Pima County Board of Soups. Is that true?
That is correct. That is statute. So once the election is over, and assuming that it is a successful Proposition 403, then the Board of Supervisors at their next meeting, they would start the process to appoint that first council.
Now, does each person get an appointee, or is there a slate that's approved as by? How does that work?
Well, they it's their slate. They can do it a couple of different ways. They can, in some cases, the Board of Supervisors has picked the organizing committee to just continue on as a council. In other cases, they have entered an interview process where they ask for resumes and stuff like that, and they make a selection that way. Tucson, which is the most recent 2010 incorporation, what they decided to do is pick 3 people for and 3 people against, and so that left them 6 months in total stasis where they couldn't get anything done.
All right.
So we wouldn't recommend that. But it's really up to the Board of Supervisors. It's their job.
And it's a 6-point appointee. It's a 6-month 7-month appointee.
No.
7 people for 6
7
months.
people until the next election cycle.
Okay.
Which under the new state law, you can't have elections every other year thing going on.
Gotcha.
So it would be November.
Okay.
So a year from now.
So even if the Pima County Board of Soup screws it up, you can fix it within a year.
Yeah, something like that.
Thank you very much. Good answer.
Yes.
Sorry, this is the show you came on, bud. So this is what we do.
I'll walk out this door. I can just see that knife coming right at my back from you two guys.
No,
I'd expect nothing less.
We're
from
trying to protect.
This is actually probably one of the most important moves.
Yep.
We could look backwards in a decade or two and go, "Thank goodness that happened."
You're correct.
Because what it does,
we're
it
for
changes.
this. Don't get me wrong.
It changes the balance of power. We were talking at the break. There are 25 cities and municipalities up in the Maricopa Valley. Each one has to get better, because if Chandler's too difficult to do business with, you're going to jump to Mesa. If Mesa makes their life too hard, you go to Tempe. So it creates competition. It makes each city have to get better and do better parks and roads and cops and economic development in order for the region to lift itself up. We don't have that tension here. We watch Marana. We talk about how great they're doing. You got to have these other cities rising up and competing for scarce resources. Economic development.
Well, also it's really been good. I talked about the City of Tucson City Council passing unanimously in favor of us. We take that as a vote of confidence. In our town hall a couple of weeks ago, we had the Mayor Bloomberg from Saurita, Mayor Honey from Marana, and Gilbert Davidson, who's his town manager from Marana, and then Greg Canton from Oro Valley, all present as panelists at our town hall. I view that as a voice of support as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Saurita, in particular, has given us a startup manual on how to start up a city. So they've given us every document that they did in 1994 when they started up to really help us out. So the whole community has been very, very supportive. I think we could ask anyone if they, for extra help, and they would provide that. So
we're on with Rob Samuelson, Incorporate Vail Committee. If you have a question, 790-2040. Let's go to Eric on line 2. Eric, what's going on, bud?
Good morning.
Hey.
Yes, I had a question for your guest. What are the boundaries of Vail, or the proposed incorporation of Vail? Where does that start and stop?
Eric, do that one more time. We had
Boundaries.
headphones problem. Ask the question one more time. It was a technical on our side. Eric, ask the question one more time, buddy.
The question was the boundaries. What are the boundaries for Vail? What's it going to be, and what's proposed today? The boundaries.
Well, you've got to go look at the website, incorporatevail.org, because the boundaries kind of are circuitous. But very briefly stated, the southern boundary is Andrada Road extended, joins up with the City of Tucson line. The western boundary follows the City of Tucson line. The northern boundary basically follows Old Spanish Trail.
Okay.
And the eastern boundary kind of follows some roads and then cuts across a section line so that we could pick up a second interchange on the I-10.
So incorporatevail.com to find out the map, but you should be getting a...
Incorporatevail.org.
Oh, sorry, .org. My apologies.
Incorporatevail.org.
Hey, let's go to Tyler real quick before we let Rob go. What's going on, Tyler?
Good morning. Hey, I was wondering, have you guys thought about and publicized how this thing could go wrong, so a lot of the people can watch out for things starting to drift the wrong direction, because we're in a county that tends to drift the wrong way?
Well, one thing about Arizona is many people who live in Arizona aren't from Arizona, so we're really looking for people from Detroit to move out there. And if you're from Detroit, please move to Vail and tell us everything you know.
So so basically the question, though, you didn't answer. I don't think you answered the question. Is what's the fail-safes here? I guess there is basically it's up to the voters in the end to vote the right people in next November.
Well, really, ultimately, that's the catch is, it is a democracy. It's like Jefferson talked about, is the local government is the purest form of government. And if you don't like what they're doing, vote them out. I mean,
Right.
Who needs term limits when you've got voters that can vote them out?
Well, we keep praying for that so
Something
many
is-
different ways.
Right.
So
Folks, the ballots are in the mail.
Yep.
So if you got them in the Vail area and you get the chance to vote for this, it's a very, very important thing for the future of our entire region. And then November, the ballot, you can go to the polls in November.
November 5th, you can go to the ballot. If you haven't sent in your mail-in ballot, you can take it and drop it off on November 5th as well.
awesome. All right, go to incorporatevail.org to find out more. Rob Samuelson, thanks for stopping by.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Best of luck.
You bet.
Wake up, Tucson, 10:30 The Voice. We'll be right back. Lots of things to get back into out there. We got Pima County stuff, Joe Higgins, sad to say. We got Kozaczyk. We're going to talk soccer with Coach Tony Amato, U of A, coming up next second hour. Wake up, Tucson, 10:30 KVOI The Voice.
Southern Arizona is waking up to local talk that matters. Wake up Tucson, mornings with Chris and Joe on AM 1030 KVOI, The Voice.